My name is Doug Sandler with Turnkey Podcast Productions, and I'm chatting with Jerry Yu. He's the family money doctor, best-selling author of Fortify Your Financial Kingdom, Build Flexibility and Control into Your Wealth for Generations. Jerry, we've done something right. We've gotten back to chapter 2. We've returned again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Awesome, Doug. It was great to be on again.
So today we're going to be talking about chapter 2 in your book. This is episode 2 of the podcast. Now, this chapter is called Looking at Family Finances Across Time. So in this chapter, you discuss which choice is better, a Mercedes or a jet. And, I'm like, I want both of those things. So how do I even decide? And what do you mean by which choice is better?
Well, again, in my practice, a lot of time client will come to the door and says, hey, Jerry, I don't give me all this complex, diagnosis and whatever. Just give me the best plan. Okay. But then, so I always use this analogy, a Mercedes or a jet, because what is the best? It depends on the purpose. So for example, Doug, if you want to go to Hawaii, between a Mercedes and a jet, which is the better vehicle? Of course, it's the jet.
The jet.
Right? But then if you want to just go down to the Costco down the street to buy some stuff, what will you take? You take the Mercedes. Right. So even though both tools are great, but they have their own purposes. Just like financial plans, every product has its advantage and some shortfalls. All right. So what is best is really depends on your situation. There's no universal answer.
All right. So I want to dial it in just a little bit more so that our listeners don't feel like, well, that was it. That was an easy answer for us to give. Of course, you're going to drive a car down the street and not take the jet. And of course, if you got to go overseas and you want to get there faster, the jet is the better option. But I want to talk about this as it relates to investing. Why does time make a difference in what you choose, the Mercedes or the jet?
Because a lot of time when clients talk about investment, they're focusing on either I wanted a fixed return or I want to invest in the market. But a lot of time they overlook the importance of diversification or the different set of goals for different planning. So that is why in my book, I outlined it that, in general, we would like to divide any family's financial situation into a short-term, mid-term, long-term, and legacy goals, right? Each goal has its purposes. For example, short-term, it's going to be the money that you need within the next year or two. So those type of money, you want to be liquid. So the best place to put it might be in the bank. Because if you get into a car accident, you can withdraw that $4,000 to fix your car right away instead of selling the stock and at the wrong time. The midterm is more of a 2 to 10 years. In this time frame, you're focusing on tangible assets. You probably be invest in the market or mutual fund or REITs, whatever. The goal for this market is you want to have the money grow as fast as possible. Okay. But then again, when there's a higher return, then you got to be prepared to bear on a higher risk. So you have to know how to manage the risk. That's what we're here for. And also for long term, it's a 10-year horizon. What are the 10-year horizon? For example, college tuitions, retirement. Those are the things that's going to happen in 10 years, and it will happen in 10 years. So those long-term goals, we're always looking for, of course, a great rate of return, no question about that. But then second thing is we have to consider and factor in is what are the tax implications for my long-term growth? Do I have to pay tax now or do I pay the tax later? Well, what will be the tax rate look like in the future? We don't know. So tax planning is also a major part of the long-term planning. And of course, the next one is the legacy, right? So if I'm doing okay, financially, my retirement is all set, but I want to do something for my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. What can I set up to make sure that they don't have to worry about, let me use an example.
Sure.
Let's record it. Okay. For legacy planning, right? So I wanted something to set up for my grandchildren or great-grandchildren because you know why? Because an analogy I use in my book is we can name our parents' names, no problem. We can name our grandparents' name, no problem. But can you name your great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents' name? No, you cannot. But if I have a proper legacy set up for the next 200 years, all the great-grandchildren knows Grandpa Jerry Yu because what he did 200 years ago that provided me with this financial stability, that's leaving a legacy, right? But you don't have to be the Rockefellers or the Kennedys to do that. Even with your limited resources or however big your resources, if you plan it properly, it can happen.
So Jerry, how does one decide? I mean, I'm just curious, just as someone that is hosting this show and having a professional as such as yourself that's on it, how does one even decide where to go financially, short-term, medium, long-term, and legacy planning when it comes to all we're trying to do is, hey, make sure that we pay our bills and put a little bit of money aside. So can you help the layman out there, the person that doesn't have a lot of experience? How do you even decide what's the right thing to do?
Correct. Because a lot of time people think that, hey, to work with the financial advisors, I got to have a significant asset. No, you don't have to, right? So even with somebody that I'm trying to, based on my income, based on my cash flow, I might be worried about certain things, but that can be your short-term goal. But everybody is going to send their kids to college. Everybody's going to retire. Everybody will pass away sometime down the road, right? So if you have a plan, a strategy in place, remember I said earlier, in the last episode, it is an evolution. This is an evolving plan that's constantly changing. So once you have a roadmap, you have a goal, then you can work towards it. So maybe right now you don't have a significant asset. You might not have enough money for the long-term goal, but the more money that you're making, the more wiser financial decisions, right? Then that can kind of, because you have a clear goal, then you know the pathway to go. Then whenever your situation changes, you can allocate by working with the financial advisors to allocate the fund to your future goals.
Very interesting. Now, what risks do people take when thinking about the wrong term? I may be thinking that I want to do something that will be a long-term investment, but in actuality, I haven't set up any short or medium-term plans in place. What are some of the risks that I'm taking by thinking wrong terms?
So for example, you were talking about if you have money in the long term and now you need a short term. For example, let's say that you put all your money into your 401k. That's a long-term plan, but you never save anything for short term. So what if and this is unfortunate, but what if you lose your job for 3-4 months? Where do you get your money? Where do you get the money to pay for all your bills? You go to credit card? Or do you want to tap into your 401k? Because 401k is not very liquid. So that is why if you invest in the wrong areas, it does have a lot of limitations, right? So liquidity might be a major concern in your situation. But for midterm and long term, then you're talking about market fluctuations. If most of your money is in the market rise, everybody's happy. But when the market is down, nobody likes to see that. But then again, when you wanted to take the money out, if it's at the wrong time when the market is down, your asset shrinks. So the money that you can take out, it's less, right? So there's a lot of, if you take the money out in the wrong time, it could be the major part is liquidity, could be the issue, or it could be a tax implication because you take the money out for your 401k, there's going to be a Uncle Sam's waiting for you. And also it could be a market timing issue that your asset might shrunk and you take less money.
Excellent information, excellent content from your book. We are 2 chapters down. And next episode, which is going to be on chapter 3, episode 3, we're going to be talking about maximum control and minimum taxes. And who doesn't want maximum control over their finances and their planning and the minimum liability and taxes in their paying to Uncle Sam. Thanks, Jerry, for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge today. Thanks for being here. See you again next episode.
Well, thanks, Doug.
For more information and to get a copy of Jerry's book, Fortify Your Financial Kingdom, Build Flexibility and Control into Your Wealth for Generations, just head over to rainfinancialservices.us or check the link in the show notes. Thanks again for tuning in.